We had 55 rental cars in my fleet that we didn't pay a single dollar for. No financing, no down payment, no partner buy-in, nothing. The owners handed me the keys, signed a contract, and walked away. And those same cars were generating $150,000 a month in revenue that we split with the owners. And this is called consignment. And the reason most operators never use it is not because rich people don't want to do it. It's because most operators don't know how to ask. In the next 15 minutes, I'm gonna break down exactly the pitch that I used to get exotic car owners to hand me over their six-figure exotic vehicles for free. The math that makes them say yes before I even finish talking, and the one financial argument that flips a no into a where do I sign almost every single time. If you're trying to grow a car rental fleet right now and you've been telling yourself, I can't grow because of my capital or financial or credit situation, this video is going to change how you think about the entire business. Here's the part that most rental operators get wrong from day one. They think that the rental business is a car business. It's not. It's an asset management business that just so happens to use cars. Once you understand that, everything starts to change. Because in the asset management world, nobody is buying their own assets. Hedge funds don't own the money that they invest. They manage other people's money. Real estate fund managers don't actually own the buildings. They manage other people's buildings. Private equity firms don't fund their own deals. They raise capital from people who already have it. Why? Because using your own capital is the slowest way you're gonna grow your business. If you put $200,000 into one Lamborghini, you have one Lamborghini. If you take that same $200,000, prove you can operate a fleet professionally, and then use it as leverage to bring on consignment vehicles, you can be running 5 to 10 cars within your first year. Same capital, 5 to 10 times the revenue, and without the depreciation risk on cars you don't own. That's the entire game. And once you see it, you simply cannot unsee it. The operators stuck at 1 or 2 cars are the ones that are still trying to buy their way to scaling. The operators running real fleets figured out how to get other people to fund their inventory. Before we go deeper, let me tell you about why I'm the one who's talking about this. I've been operating a rental fleet for over 8 years. We've run up to 60 vehicles, about half of them being exotic and half of them being economy cars, managed remotely with an on-the-ground operations team who handles pickups, drop-offs, inspections, and anything else that we need. Of those 60 cars, about 55 of them were consignment vehicles, meaning I don't own them, I didn't finance them, I have absolutely zero money tied up in them, I just operate them, take a split of the revenue, and the owner takes the rest. I've also worked with over 20 operators in the country to help them scale their own fleet using the same model. People like Ed, who went from having around 5 cars to having 15 cars on the fleet, with 10 of them being consignment vehicles. And we did that within just a short 2-month time frame. And his cars are luxury and exotic vehicles. I'm telling you this so you know that this system is not just theory. It's been deployed against actual 6-figure and multiple 6-figure vehicles with actual high net worth owners in actual operating conditions. Now let's get into the pitch. The biggest mistake that I see operators making when they are pitching consignment is that they're pitching the wrong thing. They walk up to a guy with a Ferrari or a Lamborghini in some random parking lot and ask them, hey, let me rent this out and we'll split the revenue. What an owner hears when someone says that is, oh yeah, just let me let this random person I've never met make money off of my $300,000 car. And the conversation is over before it even started. That's not the pitch. That's a sales attempt from someone who doesn't understand the customer. To run this pitch correctly, you have to understand what wealthy car owners actually want. And it's not gonna be what you think. They don't want the extra income. A person who owns a $300,000 Ferrari is not sitting up at night wondering how they can squeeze an extra couple of $1,000s a month out of the car. Of course, the income matters, but it is not the lead motivator. What they actually want is 3 things. The first thing is they want the car to be driven. Exotic cars just sitting in garages actually create severe problems for the cars. Fluids degrade, seals dry out, batteries die. It creates flat spots on the tires. The longer the car sits, the more expensive it actually becomes to maintain. Most exotic car owners that I talk to drive less than 2,000 miles a year in those cars. And the car is depreciating whether it's sitting or not. And it's it's quietly costing them money and maintenance, even when they're not touching the car. The second thing is they want depreciation that actually makes sense. A new Lamborghini typically loses around 30% of its original purchase value when it's brand new in the first year and continues to depreciate from then on. If the car is just sitting, that depreciation is a pure loss. If the car is generating income while it depreciates, suddenly the math changes. Now, at least some of the depreciation is offset by cash flow. And also, that depreciation now becomes a tax write-off, where before it was never eligible for a tax write-off. Number 3 is they want a trusted operator. A lot of exotic car owners that I've met have at some point already considered renting out their cars, but they usually haven't done it because they don't trust random platforms or random people with their cars. They want a professional operator, not an app, and not someone's side hustle. When you understand those 3 things, the pitch writes itself. You're not asking them for their car. You're offering them a solution to a problem that they already have. Here's a structure that I use. You can adapt it to your own voice, but the framework is gonna stay the same. The first step is to open with their pain and not your offer. The wrong opener would be to say, hey, I run a car rental business and I'd love to rent out your car. The right opener to flow into the conversation would be something like, hey man, I love that car. How often are you actually driving it? That single question already changes the entire conversation. Because once that answer is not often, you've already established a pain point. You don't have to convince them now. They've already convinced themselves. Step 2, acknowledge the hidden cost of letting it sit. Once they've admitted that they're not driving it much, you can say something like this. I run a fleet of luxury and exotic vehicles, and most owners that I see whose cars just sit in the garage end up still costing them maintenance, insurance, depreciation. So the asset is usually just bleeding quietly. And the worst part is you get 0 tax write-off for letting it do that. You're not selling just yet, you're agreeing with the reality. And now they might be nodding along. Step 3, introduce the model as a solution and not the offer. This is where most operators blow it. They jump right into the numbers. Don't do that just yet. Instead say this, what I do for owners is take the operational burden off of them. The car gets driven, it gets maintained by a professional schedule, it generates cash flow, and you are able to write off that depreciation while adding more cars to your fleet that you can also generate cash flow with and potentially get huge tax benefits. And the owner doesn't have to do anything except cash a check at the end of every month and still drive the car if they want to. Now they're gonna be listening because this isn't just a sales pitch anymore. This is a solution to a problem they already had. And most likely, when it comes to taxes are always a problem for the wealthy, and they're always looking for a way to get out of them. Step number 4 is to walk them through the actual math. This is the part where most owners actually say yes. And we'll spend this next section breaking it down in detail because it's the most important part of the entire pitch. Step 5 is to address the risk before they bring it up. The number 1 objection you're going to see when it comes to wealthy car owners is going to be, well, what happens if something happens to my car? You need to try to answer this before it becomes a question. You simply walk them through your insurance structure, your vetting process, your contract terms, your tracking systems, and your operating history. The vetting video I made actually covers most of this. The link for that is in the description. When you address the risk proactively, you go from random guy who wants my car to professional operator who's already thought about every concern that I have. Step number 6 is to soft close with terms. Don't ask for commitment in the first meeting. End it with, let me put together a specific proposal with your car in particular. I'll send it over in the next few days. Take a look, ask any questions, and if it makes sense for you, we move forward, and if not, no pressure. That posture, the operator who isn't begging for a deal, is what's going to close wealthy car owners. They want to work with people who are already getting busy. Here's part 4, the math that makes them say yes. This is the heart of the pitch and the heart of this video. When you sit down with a wealthy owner and you walk them through the actual financial math of their car under 3 different circumstances, the consignment decision becomes obvious. Most of them have never run numbers this way, and once they do, they want in. Scenario 1. The car is just sitting in the garage. Let's say the annual depreciation on a brand new McLaren is $15,000 to $20,000 per year. The insurance on that car is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $6,000 to $10,000 a year, depending on the area and driving history. And the annual maintenance, even when the car is not driven, is probably between $2,000 to $3,000. What's their annual revenue? Zero. So what's the net annual outcome? They're losing around $30,000 on that car per year, and maybe more. That's a huge liability for something that's not bringing in any income. Scenario number 2, the car is invested in the stock market instead. If they sold the car and put the proceeds into an index fund, they would net roughly 7 to 10% annually on average. On a $250,000 base, that's roughly $20,000 a year. But here's the catch. They sold the car. They didn't get to drive it on weekends like they wanted to. They don't get to bring it out for car shows. The lifestyle asset is gone. Scenario 3 is the car is on consignment with a professional operator. The average daily rate on that McLaren is probably going to be anywhere from $800 to $1,100 per day. That car will typically be rented anywhere from 8 to 15 days per month, depending on the season. So let's just call it 11 days per month at an average of $950 per day. That's over $10,450 in gross revenue. Now, if the owner is taking 60%, they're going to be making about $6,300 per month. That's a whopping $75,000 a year that they'll be taking home. Now here is where the math is really gonna hit home. The annual revenue alone is offsetting the depreciation. So instead of losing $30,000 a year on a depreciating asset that they're barely using, they're gonna be netting probably somewhere between $25,000 to $30,000 a year after a little bit of extra depreciation due to rentals and a little bit of extra maintenance. They can also write off the car's use against their taxes, which is gonna give them a huge tax relief. Make sure they consult a CPA, and they still own the asset. They can drive it whenever they want, and they have zero operational headache. When you put those 3 scenarios on a single page in front of a wealthy owner, the choice becomes obvious. The car just sitting, unless it's a real specialty vehicle, is an automatic loss. Selling it is gonna kill the lifestyle. Consignment is the only option that produces income, preserves the asset, and keeps the lifestyle intact. That's the pitch. Also, a quick note before we continue. If you're sitting there thinking, this is the exact model that I wanna build, well, that's the exact kind of operators that I personally work with on the daily basis. I actually made a free course for you on how you can start your own car rental business. You can watch it right here. Let's keep going because the next 2 sections are what's going to determine if the pitch actually closes. Part number 5 is where to find the cars and the people who actually own them. Knowing the pitch is half of it. The other half is being in front of the right people to deliver it. You're not going to consign a Ferrari off of a Facebook ad. You have to be physically and digitally present in the places where these car owners are. And here is where I source consignment leads. Local exotic car meets and cars and coffee events. Every single major city has them. Show up consistently. Don't pitch the first time you're at one of these events. Show up 3, 4, 5 times at least. Have genuine conversations, let people know you're a rental operator. Eventually, the conversations will start coming to you. Wealthy car people talk to other wealthy car people. Once one owner consigns with you and has a good experience, you will start to get warm intros. The next place is gonna be high-end detail shops, exotic mechanics, dealers, and customization shops. These businesses have direct relationships with every exotic car owner in your city. They know who drives their cars and who lets them sit. A referral relationship with just 2 or 3 of these shops where they get a small ongoing royalty percentage for every car that they bring you can fill your fleet really, really fast. Another method is to Instagram DM local owners directly. Find the Instagram accounts of exotic car owners in your city. Trust me, they're not hard to spot. Send a personalized message that does not pitch consignment in the first message. Build the relationship first. The pitch comes after the second or third real conversation. This next method is one of the most effective methods that I personally used, and that's to use existing rental customers. This one surprises people. The wealthy customer renting your Ferrari for a weekend most likely already owns a really nice car, or they've considered buying one. Sometimes they just want to drive a different one, test drive it, or they know that they can't really mentally justify buying one of their own. Once you've delivered a great experience as an operator, you can say, hey, have you ever considered putting your car into rotation? Or if you finally want to justify buying one of your own, putting it in the fleet, here is what that would look like. That conversation is going to have the highest close rate compared to any cold pitch. And of course, another method is to tap into your existing network. The highest converting leads are going to be warm introductions. Tell every wealthy car owner in your network exactly what it is that you do and what cars you're looking to put into the fleet. Be specific. I'm looking for a clean Lamborghini Huracan from a private owner who isn't driving it all that much. That sentence, if you say it enough, will get repeated at the right dinner table conversation eventually. You don't need to find 100 owners. You need to find 3 or 4 solid ones in your first year. That's it. Here is a real world example. I had a customer who rented a car for me that I actually brokered through another rental company. I met the customer. He wanted to rent a specific car for an event. It was a McLaren. So he rented the car, and he just so happened to own an AMG GT Coupe of his own. Well, turns out he already was brokering this car out with other companies, but he did not trust the other companies, and he was barely getting any activities on the car. As soon as we brokered him the car, we had the conversation because we saw his car right there parked at the event location. Hey, have you ever considered renting out this AMG GT just like you're renting this McLaren from us? He said, yeah, actually, I've already brokered it to other companies, but they seem a little bit shady, not getting a lot of business, and they just don't seem that trustworthy. What we did is we showed them what our fleet looked like. We showed them the numbers that these cars were producing for the car owners as well as the tax benefits. He said, okay, cool. I'm gonna give you guys this AMG GT to rent. Well, as soon as we listed the car for rent, he was so hung up on the numbers we showed him on other vehicles, he ended up trading it in for a Corvette C8. He brought that into the fleet. In the first month, that car produced over $4,000 a month gross. His payment on the car was just over $1,500 or $1,600. Just a week later, he calls me up and he goes, hey, Etienne, I'm on my way down to you. I just bought a Lamborghini Huracan Coupe. As soon as we got that car, it was doing about $10,000 a month gross right off the bat. What ended up happening was he went on to buy an Aston Martin Vantage, a BMW i8, and he brought in other investors because we were paying him a royalty that brought us 4 extra vehicles in the fleet. He was getting 60% of the revenue. We were taking 40%. And that is one of the best deals that we ever closed. Not to mention, he brought a lot of customers and was even renting some of the cars from the fleet as well. Now we need to talk about the contract terms that protects both parties. Pitching the deal is one thing, but structuring it is another. A bad consignment contract will eat you alive. A good one is the foundation of a scalable fleet. Here is what mine includes at a high level. Also, this is not legal advice, so get a lawyer, but this is the framework. You want to talk about the term length. The term length in my personal contract is there's no obligation. I do not want any vehicle owner to feel trapped. However, I do recommend that they leave the car with us for at least 1 quarter, because usually within a quarter, you will see at least 1 good month. The next thing is you clearly want to outline the revenue split. The standard market is somewhere between 60-40 and 70-30 split, usually in the owner's favor. I like to start at 50-50, especially depending on the vehicle. If an owner brings me multiple vehicles or a really specialty vehicle, I will go to 60-40. You also want to outline the maintenance responsibility. This needs to be spelled out in detail. Who pays for the routine maintenance? How damage should be handled when it's on rental versus off rental, especially if they did the damage or a team member did the damage. And then you want to talk about insurance. This is the section that a lawyer should write. Making sure that the vehicle is covered both off and on trip have to be clearly defined, and how that's done. Remember, an owner's personal policy will not cover commercial use, so you need to make sure that the vehicle is covered properly, both off and on trip. If you let the renter take a car out on a rental and all it has is an owner's personal policy on it, you're potentially 1 accident away from a lawsuit that's gonna end you and your business. Another thing you need to line out in the contract is use restrictions. What are the mileage caps per day per rental? What are the mileage allotments for marketing and things such as maintenance and delivery? What are the geographic restrictions, speed and tracking provisions, whatever protects the asset? You also need to have a termination clause in there. Both sides need a clean exit in the contract. Ours is we need at least 48 hours written notice to terminate the contract from either party. You also want to be clear about performance reporting. The owner should get a monthly statement with the utilization, the revenue that it brought in, any relevant expenses, the split, and mileage reporting. Transparency is going to build trust, and that trust is going to get you your next consignment deal. This contract is what's going to separate a hobby from a real business. Most people who try consignment and fail, they fail at this part. They had the pitch, they just didn't have the structure. So that's the consignment playbook. Understand what wealthy owners actually want, open with their pain point and not your offer, walk them through the 3 scenario math, source from car meets, detailing shops, Instagram, existing customers, and your existing network. Lock it down with a contract that's been reviewed by a lawyer. Done correctly, this is how you scale a rental fleet from 1, 2 cars to 10 plus cars very, very fast, and without putting your own capital at risk. But done incorrectly, you'll lose deals, lose owners, and lose your reputation in your local market. There is no in between. If you're running a fleet right now and you want to scale, or you're just getting started, click the first link in the description and book a strategy call. We'll map out your specific market, your starter vehicles, and your first 60-day scale plan. I only take a limited number of these calls, and I keep my student circle small because this is a true one-on-one mentorship. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and we'll see you in the next video.